exciting katulad nung very first time guest ni Christian Esguerra kahapon. Kasama po natin si former Political Affairs Secretary and now, thanks to our friend sa kabilang channel, political strategist. So very proactive daw. Political strategist, Ronald Llamas. Maraming salamat, Secretary, for joining us today.
Maraming salamat, Richard. No? Baka mas maraming t-shirt yung makuha pag strategist ang nakalagay. Hindi na analyst. No? Yung mga analyst mo lang naman ang medyo mataas yung standard eh. Kaya hindi lang t-shirt ang kukuha.
Oo, medyo.
Yung mga katulad mo, medyo
Balitan natin na Secretary Llamas, pati mug, medyo sinisingil mo na sa kabila. Mukhang kulang yung twinning na ng shirt niyo. Pero sa akin, mukhang mas malaki pang, malaki pang sinisingil mo ha. Secretary Llamas, yes.
Mukhang tinago mo na yung leather jacket mo.
Oo nga eh. Since kagabi, sabi ko, sisingil na ito, magpalit na tayo ng jacket. Para naman, baka bomber jacket lang hingi niya sa akin. Medyo mas afford natin yan. Pansin niyo mo naman, Secretary Lance. Baka naman, ako na lang bahala sa mug. Kung si Christian doon sa shirt, para twinning, tayo naman same mug. Anyway, hindi ako nakatulog na mabuti hanggang 5 a.m. kanina kasi inisip ko, baka naman, sisingilin na naman tayo mamaya ni Boss Ronald. Medyo naman tayo. So, diskartein natin yan over the weekend para magti-twinning na rin tayo dyan. Hindi lang yung mga facts first. Anyway, Secretary Llamas, marami tayong pag-usapan today. No? I know you're tired. I know you have been in demand. Chinichismis na mami ko. Naku yan si Sir Ronald. Hindi lang kay Esguerra, pati dun sa mga iba-ibang channel. Parati siyang in demand. Sabi ko, kaya nga sisingilin tayo i-ready mo na yung mga mugs natin. So a number of things. Obviously, the reason na delay tayo today, one reason is, of course, ayaw natin kasabayan yung facts first. I think 8:30 to 9 base sa aking confidential fund intelligence report. But the other one is, of course, itong laro ng Pilipinas at China, mukhang lutong Hangzhou. Hindi lutong Beijing, lutong Hangzhou ang nangyari. Nasaan na po si Bato, si Senator Bato? Baka naman, sana pumunta siya sa Beijing para magtapang-tapangan siya dyan. But before tayo pupunta sa China, nako, masakit ang ulo natin dyan, marami tayong pag-usapan. Let's be a little bit more literally down to earth. No? And speaking of down to earth, of course, pag-usapan natin itong issue ng palay, issue ng bigas, issue ng food inflation, because it looks like President BBM really got the message. So kanina mayroon siyang press conference kung saan sinabi niya na naintindihan niya na natural na maiinis ang tao dito sa situation sa food inflation. I mean, his numbers dropped very significantly among Class E, almost by a third, no? 29%. So clearly may kinalaman ito sa presyo ng bigas, presyo ng mga bilihin dahil Class E, mga pinakamahirap natin kababayan, ang pinaka-apektado dito by every measure. So I think the president saw the writing on the wall. But the question is, are the responses reasonable? So kanina in-interview din ako ng mga international media about tinatanggal na yung rice caps kasi sabi ko wala naman silver. Last month pa lang may sinulat ako about this issue na mukhang hindi gumagana. Nag-oppose din yung Filipino-Chinese, I think, business community. Marami nagsabi ng mga ekonomista na hindi mag-work yan. Medyo Soviet strategy yan. If you put price cap, supply goes down, you're still not solving the problem. So scramble time. And the last thing, of course, Secretary Llamas, is we're also hearing that the president is considering someone, I'm not sure the best of person, someone na medyo tycoonish as his potential replacement sa Department of Agriculture, because obviously, kung ikaw yung Department of Agriculture Secretary at ikaw yung presidente, ikaw talagang sisisihin ng taong bayan kung hindi gumaganda yung presyo ng mga bilihin, no? Kung pataas at pataas itong food inflation problem natin. So, Secretary Llamas, let's talk about this. Let's go. Let's get the ball rolling.
Yeah. Tama ka, Richard. No, it's a wake-up call for the president, no?
Yeah, wake-up call for the president. Sorry, hindi ko pala na-press. Ang dami kong dinaldala na. So essentially, sinabi ko, President Marcos Jr. got the message. Base sa surveys, clearly hindi natutuwa ang mga, especially mga pinaka mahirap natin kababayan, Class E, 29% decline sa latest survey. So the president got the message. Now he's scrambling for response. Do his responses make sense? Or what could make sense, Secretary Llamas?
Well, it's one of the few times na yung mga magsasaka, yung retailers, yung big producers, yung mga big millers ay nagkaisa na this was the wrong strategy, no? At
Itong rice cup.
syempre hindi naman yung rice cup, no? At yung iba pa nilang ginagawa this past few months, how to mitigate food inflation, no?
Yeah.
Malinaw kasi dito sa very dramatic na pagbaba ng approval rating ng presidente, 15%, no? In just one cycle,
Yeah. And 29%
after
among Class E. 29. Ang laki nun. Almost a third, no?
Yes.
Ang laki,
Oo. Lalo-lalo na doon sa mga bumoto sa kanya.
Right.
No? Ito yung DNE na bumoto sa kanya last election.
Correct.
Para magkaroon ng ganun ng kataas na mandate, di ba? So definitely the honeymoon is over. No?
Yeah, the
Sana
honeymoon is
ito ay
over.
wake-up call, no, sa presidente dahil yung Pulse Asia, nag-survey din sila eh. Yung disapproval rating ng presidente on inflation is 56%. No? Mas mataas, 16% lang yung nag-approve. So pag pinagsama mo yan, ay talagang hindi lang dapat gisingin yung presidente. Talagang kailangan mo siyang sampal-sampalin.
Put him inside the swimming pool, di ba? I mean, just to put things into context, you work under President Aquino. At this point, I think President Aquino's approval was 77%, I think net, no? And President Digong was around 80%. So, he's in the 60s territory. Pag sinama mo pa, pag ninet mo pa yan, medyo delikado siya, no? Double digit yung kanyang difference with President Aquino and President Digong. So, his two immediate predecessors were far more popular than him at this point in the presidency. Second year pa lang. First quarter, second quarter pa lang second year. Ganyan kababa, no?
At ang kaibahan na Richard, ay mas malaki yung kanyang mandate. Mas malaki
Yun,
yung kanyang nakuhang
exactly.
percentage ng boto.
Good point.
Kumpara kay Pinoy at saka kay Digong.
Correct,
Pero
correct.
mas mabilis yung kanyang pagbaba. At mas malaki, 15%. Hindi nangyari yan kay Pinoy or kay Digong. I'm not sure about GMA, no?
Yeah.
First year niya. Kaya dapat tignan niya itong writing on the wall na napakahalaga sa kanyang term as president, no? Siyempre, matagal na natin sinasabi, kailangan maglagay siya ng full-time Secretary of Agriculture.
Yes.
Partly para ayusin yung Department of Agriculture, partly para maging buffer. Kung may mga criticism man sa agriculture policy like sa rice, na pinumisa niya na bababa sa 20 pesos, na ngayon ay 60 na, no? Merong sisisihin. No? So yung isang role ng Secretary of Agriculture ay hindi lamang para ayusin yung departamento, kung hindi a possible scapegoat kung sakaling may problema. Pero itong pinili niya ay parang hindi ganun kagaling eh. Parang yung main criteria dito sa kanyang pinili ay funder at saka kaibigan. Pero wala siyang history in terms of skill set. Halimbawa, katulad ni R.C. Balisacan, na kahit papano ay pinag-aralan ng hustong agriculture at may mga proposals na in the past works. So hindi ko alam kung paano nito aayusin ang Department of Agriculture. Baka lumala pa dahil ang problema ng ating agriculture ay cartels eh. At itong pinili ay mukhang bahagi ng mga cartel, lalo na sa fishing, no? Kaya hindi ko alam kung paano niya ayusin ito without being rent-seeking, no? Dahil alam mo naman ang role ng mga ganyang klaseng mga taipans, no? They use their position para makinabang sila at saka yung kanilang mga kaibigan. Pwede na yung kanyang contribution kay President Bongbong Marcos is to be a buffer na hindi na masyadong
punching bag kumbaga, no? Alam ko si Carl Llamas medyo pagod ka yata ngayon. Don't worry, let me take over a little bit more. So this is yung difference natin with Christian. No? Christian is a legit anchor, legit journalist. I'm a thinker, I'm a strategist, I'm a political analyst like you yourself, right? So let me take some of the punches here and also come in. No, kasi si Carl Llamas...
Pwede nga ako magtanong sa'yo eh.
Oh, no, exactly. This is a conversation. So I want this to be done exactly like what I do with Dr. Lele Claudio, no? So it's a conversation. So may mga nagsabi na, si Darian, salita ng salita. Excuse me, conversation po yan. Hindi yan one way. Paras kami madaldal. At ngayon, pagod na pagod yung ating co-host. So let me take over a little bit. Of course, my understanding here is you need buffer. You're absolutely right. You need a scapegoat. And I think ang nangyari dito is medyo nagmaganda ng konti sa isip Pangulong Marcos, thinking if he puts himself at the very front, he will get credit for that. He will show proactiveness, except things didn't work out, no? And in fairness naman to Marcos Jr., there are many factors na external also contributed to that. Just to give you a number, so since past year, the cost of Thai exports in the global markets increased by 50%. Obviously, hindi hawak ni BBM yan. Now, we import way more than from Vietnam than Thailand, but nevertheless, you can see the picture. Back in August, India imposed restrictions on their own rice exports, which once again put pressure. So, hindi nagagana yung Ukraine conflict excuse as much as before, obviously. Pero unfortunately for Marcos Jr., and to be fair to him, may pressures din sa Asian rice markets. But obviously, of course, alam natin pareho, Ronald, hindi naman nagre-research sa Bloomberg Magazine ng mga tao to see latest movements sa global rice markets. Sumisingil na ang taong bayan. Kaya I think both of us exactly said the same thing. It looks like the honeymoon is over and now people are becoming more performance-oriented. And the president's approval rating is way lower than both Aquino and Digong over the past decade or so. So, very stark ito. Now, Secretary Llamas, the president is removing the price caps because obviously it didn't work. Obviously, it's not something you do in a free market economy, supposedly. And especially when you're trying to get investors. Actually, later on, pag-usapan natin because one big area also na bumaksak yung numbers ni BBM is ABC, which is us. And I think may kinalaman din ito dun sa broader economic and investment environment. But we'll go to that later on. Balik tayo dito. So, at least there could be someone new coming in who will take the punches. At kung etong tao na to, feeling niya it's worth it for whatever reason, then go ahead. But the other thing is, I think sasampa ng kaso na ngayon dun sa mga smugglers. So just after the survey comes out and just after Ronald Llamas and Haydarian and all gave their analysis, the next day magsasampa ng kaso laban sa mga smugglers and all, I think the timing is a little bit too obvious. But do you think, Ronald, Secretary Llamas, do you think that will kind of work? I mean, what should be done? Sabi nga, cartel. Itong malaking problema itong mga cartel na to. Performative ba ito? Or this could become something more serious? Because obviously, kung honeymoon is over, hindi madadalang tao sa performative lang. Sisingil talaga sila. If 6 months from now, ganyan naman yung situation and yung mga cartel ay walang nangyari doon. Do you think something more serious is gonna be done here? Because wala nang choices. Something has to be done, yeah.
Yeah. Dagdag doon sa sinabi mo kanina, Richard, no? Yes, maraming external factors. Yes, hindi na pwedeng sisihin yung Ukraine war, no?
Exactly.
Pero in spite of that, marami talaga external factors. Pero kaya yung mga external factors na ito ay ganyan katindi yung tama.
Yeah.
It's because also of our historical structural problems with agriculture.
Correct.
No? Na hindi naman na nangyari nitong nakaraang 1 year lang.
Yeah.
So, ganun yung kwan. Pero then again, ang problema ni BBM, no, I doubt kung meron siyang appreciation, I doubt kung meron siyang aptitude para dito sa mga structural issues na ito, no? Pero kahit pag-usapan kasi yung mga tactical medium-term solution, ay hindi ko nakikita na yan ay mangyayari in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So in the next 2 years, I think the president has to contend with food inflation, no? Lalo na tingin ko dito sa pagpili niya ng bagong Secretary of Agriculture, hindi ko nakikita yung wherewithal na at the very least ay solusyonan itong mga at least yung mga immediate concerns.
Yeah.
Dito sa agriculture, no? Kaya ang pwede ay yung sinasabi niya last SONA. Magkakasama tayong dalawa eh.
Correct.
Yung sa 1PH.
Yes.
SONA si BBM. Ang sabi niya, tapos na ang mga araw ng mga hoarders.
Exactly. Tapos
ng mga
pumalakpak yung mga
smugglers.
tao.
No, ng mga cartel. No?
Correct.
Pumalakpak gusto, di ba?
Correct.
No? Kaya siguro sinisimulan niya ngayon dahil wala siyang magagawa sa external. Wala siyang magagawa sa structural. No? I doubt kung may magagawa siya or yung pinili niya as Secretary of Agriculture. So, ano yung path of least resistance? Manghuli siya. Gumawa siya ng kwan, ng mga scapegoats, ng mga political scapegoats na hindi naman talaga scapegoats, may kasalanan naman talaga eh.
Yes, exactly.
Pero
Correct.
it has to be dramatic. Hindi po pwedeng incremental dahil very dramatic yung kanyang pagbagsak.
Yeah.
At in the next 2 months, may bagong survey na naman yung lalabas. So, kailangan within that 2 months, yung gestation period, kailangan may impact kahit papano na seryoso siya.
Yeah.
No? Na seryoso siya. Kahit hindi siya seryoso na paano ma-mitigate yung external factors na sinasabi mo, yung structural ills na sinasabi ko, at yung weakness ng kanyang cabinet. Paano yung hindi natin napag-uusapan pa, Richard?
Yeah.
Yung weakness ng cabinet ni BBM.
Yeah.
Dapat kasi yung cabinet mo, no, ay yun yung collective buffer eh. Dapat
Correct.
yung cabinet mo ay even if we hate the father, yung kanyang cabinet ay the
A-list.
best and the brightest ng
Oh,
kanyang henerasyon.
A-list.
Itong
Yeah.
cabinet ni BBM mukhang leaves much to be desired. Noong galing siya sa Indonesia, kung naalala mo, ang sabi niya, tapos na ang on-the-job training.
Yeah.
No? Nag-indicate siya na magkakaroon ng cabinet revamp. Wala namang nangyaring cabinet revamp eh.
Yeah.
Inappoint lang niya si Gibo, no? Inappoint niya yung bagong Secretary of Health, pero walang revamp. Ibig sabihin, yung mga siya mismo ang nagsabi na napatunayan na hindi nagde-deliver o hindi kayang maging maayos na cabinet secretary, hindi naman niya tinanggal.
Yeah.
Hindi naman niya tinanggal. Namatay pa si yung one of the few strong cabinet secretaries niya, si Secretary
Yes.
Ople.
God bless her soul.
Whose heart is in the right place.
Yeah.
Tapos naiwan yung mga natutulog sa pansitan, naiwan yung mga hindi tama yung mga policies, naiwan yung mga pinapackage yung mga investments na 90 billion dollars na wala ka naman. So, ito dapat yung kanyang linisin.
Oo.
Partly as a buffer, partly para ayusin yung kanyang cabinet.
Yeah, Secretary
Dito sa kanyang going
Yeah.
into the second year.
Yeah, Ron, we'll talk more about that because speaking of cabinet, how good is the cabinet, we're seeing right now that even yung mga technocrats niya are coming under scrutiny because the performance is not very good in terms of attracting actual investments after all of that Grand Prix world travel, all of the Magellan Junior stuff over the past year. So, pupunta tayo dyan. I mean, of course, I have extensively written on this issue. But before our conversation going on there, see, conversation, right? So don't worry, Ronald, you don't have to do all the talking. Let me take some of the punches here too. But going back to this, ganito, do you think it's time for something like, kasi ako nag-propose ako ng Grand Coalition, no? Which is, why not, bring in Mar Rojas, take over the DTI, which we'll, I think, discuss more, because I think in DTI we need also some movement there. And more importantly, why not bring someone like, Kiko Pangilinan, right? To take over agriculture. Didn't Senator Pangilinan actually take over the agriculture portfolio in the initial years of your Aquino administration, right? Bago siya bumalik sa Senado, di ba? So he has a background on that. I think for anyone who has bothered to check his online mga posts, tignan mo yung kanyang central theme nung tumakbo siya bilang vice-presidente. And I actually had the chance to also bump into him a few weeks ago sa Taiwan. He looks like someone who's genuinely invested in agriculture-related issue. He's a quite smart person. He's an activist and all. So hindi ko sinasabi dahil opposition siya, etc. But I just feel getting someone like him in the mix would have made sense, especially if earlier. Kasi my sense is tatakbo ulit siya for Senate in 2025 eh. So sana mas maaga siya nakuha. But nevertheless, we have more than a year before the next elections. Do you think getting someone like Mar Rojas or Pangilinan or something like bolt from the blue or kind of from, not your usual suspects coming in could actually help and bolster him? Considering that these people are if they're gonna be coming in, it's probably because of their merit, no? Kasi galing silang opposition eh. Do you think that that's too crazy or could make sense?
Yeah, mukhang dahil sa not yet a desperate situation, but a very significant moment for the president, kinakailangan niya, tama yung sabi mo, Richard, kailangan niyang mag-isip outside
the box. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Outside the box. Yeah.
Yun yung kailangan niyang gawin, no? Partly dahil naghahanap siya ng mga hindi kanya, pero merong mahabang karanasan, halimbawa sa agriculture, halimbawa sa trade, no? At medyo tested na.
Yeah.
Ikalawa, ay whether we like it or not, it can divert attention eh. Pag halimbawa, kinuha niya yung mga tipo
Exactly.
na katulad ng dalawang binanggit mo,
Exactly.
medyo mapapaisip yung mga tao, what's happening?
Create a new
So, medyo
discourse.
mawawala dun
Change
sa-
narrative.
Mawawala ng kaunti dun sa
Exactly.
mga fiasco
Exactly.
ng rice cup, mawawala ng kaunti dun sa fiasco
Correct,
ng
correct.
20 pesos na rice, no?
Yeah.
Mawawala dun sa weekly na tumataas na
Change the
presyo ng
conversation.
gasolina, yung presyo ng kuryente na nadodoble, no? Medyo mawawala for a while. Habang naghahanap ka ng mga
Correct.
tactical solutions sa
Correct,
mga problemang ito, kailangan mong makuha yung imagination ng mga tao. And by doing these things out of the box, pwedeng magkaroon ka ng space to do that. No? Kailangan niya ng space eh. No?
Yeah.
Kailangan hindi mangyari na yung susunod na survey, bababa siya uli. Because it might become a trend. No? Kung next survey bababa siya significantly, then delikado siya. Going into the midterms.
Yeah.
Pero tama rin yung sinabi mo na kinakailangan isang weakness ng presidente, inaasahan ko na gagawin niya this year eh. Hindi niya ginawa, the Grand Coalition. No? Ang ginawa nila ay pinang-prime
Yun yung
nila
sinasabi ko eh.
yung Partido Federal.
Correct,
Na
correct.
nobody takes seriously.
Exactly, yeah, wala.
Tapos yung lakas NUCD, nagbabakbakan siyempre si GMA at saka si Speaker Martin. So, mas nandun sila nakafocus. Pero kung itutuloy niya yung Grand Coalition, yung KNP kasi ni Albi Benitez, parang hindi na tuloy yung registration eh. No? So, kailangan niyang hatakin yung NUP,
Yeah.
kailangan niyang hatakin yung nationalista, no, na very willing na maging part ng ruling coalition. Tapos yung lakas, no? Okay na lang doon as a junior partner yung Partido Federal, even if people don't take it seriously.
Correct.
So, para magmuka na he is in control. No? Hindi wala siyang political advisor, wala siyang political strategist, no?
Wala siyang
tapos wala
spokesman.
siyang political coalition.
Wala
no?
siyang spokesman.
So, lahat ito ay nakakadagdag sa kanyang problema.
Yeah.
No? Nakakadagdag sa kanyang problema ng isang weak cabinet, nakakadagdag sa kanyang problema na wrong policies, no? Nakakadagdag sa kanyang problema na ang tingin ng tao ay nagkakahati-hati na yung kanyang unity. So all that, maliban sa hindi lang yung inflation, ay nakakadagdag not necessarily dramatically, but incrementally do sa total ng kanyang pagbaba, yung 15%.
Yeah.
So kailangan lahat yan harapin niya, hindi lang isa. It's a multifaceted problem eh. Alam naman natin na Richard yung mga bagay na yan. Hindi lang naman isa yung source eh.
Yeah.
May mga iba't iba pa na magkakaugnay eh. Na magkakaugnay. Yun yung kailangan niyang ayusin. Siya kasi mismo, I doubt kung may ganun siyang capacity eh. No? Si Secretary Bersamin, I doubt kung may ganun siyang capacity eh. Judge siya eh. No, hindi niya linya ito eh. He's a judge for more than 3 decades at Chief Justice siya ng Supreme Court. So hindi niya trabaho
Hindi siya
ito,
pwede
hindi niya
conciliary.
skill set, no, hindi niya ito.
Hindi siya Ronald
Sa sunod,
Llamas. Wala siyang Ronald Llamas. You know, let's just spell it out. No, I like this. I like what we're doing, Ronald, no? Kasi we're like two political strategies here. Of course, alam naman ng tao saan tayo, I mean, where our values and convictions are. Of course, you know, both of us consider ourselves as progressives. But nevertheless, we're talking now as political strategies and what President Marcos Jr. should do. My sense kasi, Ronald, is kung hindi bumaba ng 11 points yung isa, then sobrang delikado ka, di ba? Kung ikaw lang nabubugbog and then yung number 2 mo, your spare tire is actually doing very well, then delikado ka. Although, my sense is if the survey were taken today or if it were a snapshot of end of September, siguro Sarah's number would have been also slightly lower because dito na yung full-blown effect ng confidential fund and all. But clearly, if you look at the pulsation survey that came out today, dun sa most urgent issue, ang layo pa rin yung issue ng corruption, right? Or concerns with corruption, dun sa issue ng inflation, like 70 versus what, 20, right? It's not even comparable. So clearly, mas vulnerable si BBM kaysa kay Sara because mas malaking concern taong bayan sa issue ng inflation, food inflation, kaysa sa issues ng confidential fund, as important as it is. So actually, I'm surprised that there was still an 11-point downward for Sara, even if it looks like the confidential issue in theory should not be as much as a big issue. Again, allegation, of course. Allegations about potential anomalies. We're not saying that that's the case per se. But let's talk about this. I mean, I also agree with you, Ronald, and that was why I was thinking about it. Na kailangan natin ng what I call grand coalition because it changes the narrative, no? It shifts the blame. It's not all about Marcos Jr. trying to prove us all wrong, but it's about us all invested in the ruling coalition because you have people like Pangilinan potentially there or people like Maro has there. You know, I mean, it makes things interesting. It changes the narrative. But ngayon hindi. There are fault lines with perhaps the Dutertes, but the opposition is not openly there in the front. I mean, we know, of course, Ronald, behind the scenes, marami sa mga, alam natin, may mga engagements, pero walang face walang Maro has level face or Kiko Pangilinan kind of face. And I think that would have changed things. But you're right, obviously, it's also about actual changes on the ground. Now, speaking of the cabinet, I raised some eyebrows last year when I said, baka naman yung technocrats niya can be considered as best and brightest. Diba? Obviously, this is not Marcos senior level of technocrats. Hindi ito mga Jerry Sikat, Harvard PhD, industrial policy type of guy. But, I was thinking about it, joke, no, balisakan. Okay, not bad. In fairness naman, you can say a thing or two about them. Balisakan, fantastic background as NEDA in the past and agricultural economies. Joke na naman, he thinks also outside the box, monetary expansion policy during pandemic, so on and so forth. But I heard some of the other Ivy League guys, business people messaging me like, I'm not sure about the best and brightest, but this is definitely reassuring compared to what could have been. Like it could have been worse, kumbaga. That's what I got. But this is it, Ronald. So many travels, so much pledges, 68 billion pesos in pledges, right? Ang daming travels, paulit-ulit pa sa ibang bansa, nakailan na ba sa Asia, nakailan ba sa US, etc. Bumaba pa yung foreign direct investments. And now you have Balisacan coming out and saying maybe we have to do more about this. Like, yeah, exactly. That's what I've been saying for weeks now. And then mukhang ngayon may konting blame game pa nangyayari. Yung nagpapasa ng blame. And let's be honest, Ronald, I think you and I agree on this. I think there's another department other than Department of Finance or NEDA that I think should be more responsible for investment promotions, right? And I think that's DTI, right? Which is exactly why I thought bringing in Mar Rojas would have made perfect sense politically. But also Mar Rojas is, he knows his stuff. I mean, he was a pretty good guy in the DTI back in the day, right? Kaya nga, Mr. Palenque Mar Rojas. So, number one sa Senate back in the day. So, I don't know, what is your take naman on the technocratic side? Because ito bumaba rin ang numbers niya sa ABC Let's be honest, hindi naman masyadong apektado ang ABC as much as E or even D pagdating sa presyo ng bigas. 5 to 10 pesos per kilo is something that I think the more upper class Filipinos can deal with. But obviously, a lot of them are unhappy. I think 22% yung decline ni BBM sa ABC. So I think there's looking at the broader economy. Slowing down, 5% lang instead of 7-8%. Investments really not coming in. Ang dami, twice pa siya nag-Grand Prix sa Singapore. Ano ba nakuha natin dun sa mga talk niya with Lee Sheng Lu and all of these people? So, yun nga It's not also working well on that front, on the more high-end, posh commercial diplomacy front. Hindi lang pumalpak itong food security promises, hindi rin gumaganang sa kabila. So Ronald, realistically, again, two of us as political strategists, what would be our advice to the administration? Again, of course, free-tong advice because we don't want to work for certain administration. But what would be your advice on this front naman?
Well, una mag-purge siya.
Alam ko na sino yan.
Halimbawa, yung kanyang senior undersecretary sa Department of Agriculture na na-involved dito sa mga fiasco sa sugar, no? Nagiging na-involved dito sa mga fiasco sa agriculture. Namili ng arbitrarily tatlong importers ng sugar at hindi naman bumaba yung presyo ng sugar dramatically, no? Mukhang maraming problema. Yung senior undersecretary na yan, maliban sa kanyang edad, no? Ikalawa, baka kailangan niya i-consider ano ba nangyayari sa Department of Transportation, no? Because maraming mga big ticket projects ang nandyan.
Right.
At yan yung nakikita ng mga tao, bakit hanggang ngayon yung airport hindi naayos? No, ito yung mga dramatic correct. In the scheme of things ay baka hindi ganun kalaki yung epekto sa economy, pero yan yung nakikita ng mga tourist na papasok. Yan yung nakikita ng mga karaniwang tao na mga OFW, ng mga nagta-travel within the Philippines na bakit ganito ka ah, kawalang kwenta yung services sa ating airport. So yun yung ikalawa. Ikatlo, yung trade. Bakit puro pirma ng pirma? Hindi nga 68 more than 80 billion yung
Yeah.
bilang nila. So, meron na bang pumasok dyan? Sabi mo nga, lalo pang lumalabas yung FDI.
Yeah.
At hindi lang lumalabas, mataas, 30%. No?
Yeah.
Hindi siya increments, no? Malalaki.
Yes.
Ah,
Laki,
yung
laki.
Finance Secretary, bagampat, sabi mo nga, meron naman siyang rigorous background, pero parang kinakapos siya ngayon.
Yeah.
Kinakapos siya rito ngayon sa kanyang mga fiscal policy at sa kanyang mga advice sa presidente. Baka time to retire na rin, no? Time to retire na rin, no? Dahil time to join Maharlika.
Yeah.
Doon na siya mag-full time sa Maharlika. Yung Department of Labor mo, mukhang natutulog sa kapansitan, no? Napanood ko siya last Labor Day. Walang anything significant nung May 1. So, siyempre matanda na rin siya.
Yeah.
Pero ayun, hindi ko na alam kung ano yung kanyang kaya pang madeliver. So meron kang mga several na baka pagpahingahin mo na, no? At yung mga sinasabi mo nga, mamili ng mga outside of the
Yeah.
box, no? Na mas potentially mas may kakayanan at who will change the narrative, no? Lalo na dito sa downward trend ng kanyang approval ratings, no? Yun yung political value nun. Yun yung political
Yeah.
value. Pero sinasabi nga natin, Richard, ito ay iba't iba pang mga variables Hindi siya isa lang Magkakadikit siya no? Halimbawa, habang pinag-uusapan natin ito, no? Ay yesterday nangyari yung talagang pagtanggal ng CIIF ng Vice President at Secretary of Education with finality at least sa House. Diba? Nangyari yan, no? Kaya nga sabi ni Montalban, gera na, no? War has been declared, no? Yun yung ikalawa ay may sumulpot na kaso labang kay GMA dito sa paggamit ng malampaya funds, no?
Yeah.
Tapos a few days before that ay yung mga appointed ni former President Duterte sa Malacanang, 2 undersecretaries, no, 4 or 5 directors, etc.
Ronald, park natin yun. We'll have a separate episode on that. I think that will be the realignment I want to talk about soon.
Parang sinasabi ko lang na ito ay mag-i-impact
Correct.
how the President conducts himself, how the President confronts this parallel operations. Mag-i-impact yan aside from inflation.
Yeah.
Aside from the cabinet, doon sa kanyang approval rating.
Yeah. Okay, Ronald. First of all, let me say congratulations to Gilas Pilipinas. I cannot believe. Apparently, so nakita ko sa comments, nanalo ang Gilas Pilipinas by 1 point. Katulad ng kahapon laban sa Iran. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, swerte yata tayo. Swerte tayo. Kasi kanina, I was checking third quarter.
May mga tumatalon ba na senador?
Wala nga Kaya nga siguro 1 point lang. Kung andun si Bato, siguro 20 points na naman yung tambak. So, wow! 77-76. So, sa fourth quarter, ito na naman, nag-next level na naman si Justin Brownlees. So, congratulations sa Gilas Pilipinas. Proud na naman tayo. Very, very happy about that. So, eto na. Siguro ready na tayo next for gold medal. I think Jordan yata ang kalaban. So,
makatulong yan para yung political fortunes ng presidente magbago.
At least may good news tayo ngayon. Kasi kanina medyo depressed na ako kasi third quarter medyo tambak na. Sabi ko, lutong hangzhou na to Pero bumawi naman ng Pilipinas. Kabaliktaran ng kahapon kasi sa Iran, sa fourth quarter sila natatalo biglang. Ngayon naman bumawi sila. So, this is the first time since 1990. Panahon mo na yan na nag-finals ang Gilas, no? And the same si Coach Cone din yata, Tim Cone nung time na yan, or something like that. So, maybe we can talk about that more. But I think that was a perfect segue, speaking of China, sa next topic natin, sa next episode natin. Pag-usapan naman natin ang geopolitical strategies. So, hindi lang tayo political strategists, Ronald. We are geopolitical strategists. Thank you so much, Ronald Llamas, for being a fantastic co-host for this latest episode ng R&R. Gagawan pa natin ng special logo itong R&R natin, no? Mamaya, alam mo na, pupush natin iba para gawin TV program to. Okay? Yan ang target natin, Ronald, na gawin itong pangsunod sa wag po. Okay? Alright, thank you very much, Secretary Llamas. Let's talk, of course, next naman about West Philippine Sea and China. We're taking off from very good news. We really need, I think BBM should be very happy now na may good news na finally today. Ang daming mga,
We're just talking about changing the narrative.
I know, this is a
Suddenly,
good, if I am BBM, I'll talk about basketball for the next 6 months, alright? Maraming salamat everyone for joining us for another episode ng R&R. Salamat din dun sa mga nag-update sa akin si ASD9 na panalo palang Gilas. Akala ko sarcastic yan and all, I couldn't believe it. Wow, so proud to be Filipino. Sarap maging Filipino pag ganyan. Pero bago tayo pumunta dyan, pag-usapan natin ng not so happy things. Salamat, Secretary Llamas. Oops, muntik ko na off pala to. Okay. 1 second. Saan ko ba ito? Okay. Okay. Wait lang, ba't nawala yung recording dito? Meron ka ba nakikita recording dyan? Bakit nawala siya? Wala yung botones ng recording. 1 second ah. How do I record this? Okay, ito tanong siguro. Okay. Alright, Secretary Llamas, thank you very much again for a fantastic discussion we had kanina as political strategists. Now naman, mag-feeling tayo ng konti, mag-international tayo. Geopolitical strategy. Obviously, hindi naman tayo nag-feeling kasi very invested tayong lahat dito sa issue na ito at itong issue ng West Philippine Sea. So, of course, good news today. I'm very glad things ended on a better note. So, nanalong Gilas Pilipinas kanina. Crazy coming from behind, third quarter, tambak na tambak tayo. But that's it. Nanalo tayo by 1 point again. So back-to-back 1 point. Talaga pinapa-hard attack tayo nitong Gilas. Pero super proud of Gilas Pilipinas. But before that good news, there was not so good news vis-a-vis, well, not China per se, but the situation in West Philippines. So kanina umaga nakita natin na may news na may mga kababayan tayo na nagbuwis buhay dahil sa isang insidente dyan sa West Philippine Sea. I think we have some updates now over the past 12 hours about the nature of the situation. Thankfully, this shows how responsible the Philippines is. We did not point fingers at anyone prematurely. We waited for proper investigation into it, and it looks like this is not another reed bank. No? So I was worried na baka ito na naman nangyari katulad ng 2019 na yung Gemver and Reed Bank and baka may China. Thankfully, wala. No? Thankfully, wala. Having said that though, Secretary Llamas, you have your own say on this. You have your own take on this. My sense is, of course, we have to be responsible, not lay blame on China for everything wrong that happens there in the West Philippine Sea. At the same time, there is a certain degree of structural culpability, no, ng China, because if titignan mo yung ginagawa ng China dahil binubuli yung ating mga mangingisda, piniprevent sila from going to their traditional fishing ground, technically speaking, Scarborough Shoal among others, per day arbitration award in 20. They have to venture out more dun sa mas delikadong area. At alam natin yung mga bangka nila, yung kanilang trainings, at tapos meron ka pang hindi magandang panahon with climate change, you're essentially forcing Filipino fishermen, small-time fishermen, to venture into really, dark, risky waters. So in a way, of course, we're not gonna blame China for this particular incident, but the reality is, Marcos Jr. has another big problem. So, kahapon, I talked about 2 ticking time bombs, based also my discussion with Justice Carpio. One ticking time bomb is Reed Bank. Kasi hindi pa natin na-develop while paubos na yung Malampaya. Second ticking time bomb is yung BRP Sierra Madre. Giving into the elements na yan. Something has to be done. Pero the third ticking time bomb is, kung tuloy-tuloy itong pagbuli sa ating mga mangingisda, unfortunately, these kinds of incidents can keep on happening, no? So Secretary Llamas, first of all, what is your understanding of the updates that are coming in and the incident that happened? At kasi ikaw nakakausap mo rin yung mga mangingisda, and in our last episode last week, previous episode, pinag-usapan mo rin yung mga advocacies mo, yung mga hikayin mo doon sa with the communities on the ground. Pag-usapan natin yan, Secretary Llamas.
I agree with you, Richard, na whatever yung resulta ng investigation dito sa Running, no, talagang may structural culpability yung China. No? Baka hindi natin minamaliit itong nangyari na aksidente, hindi natin minamaliit yung tatlo na namatay at yung mga muntik mamatay. Pero mas marami kasi yung damage na ginagawa sa mga fisher folks natin, sa mga frontliners natin sa West Philippine Sea, kung i-accumulate natin yung impact
Yeah.
nito sa kanilang livelihood, yung impact nito sa kanilang kalusugan, no? Yung impact nito sa ating sariling kalikasan, no? Yan ay immeasurable. Kaya nga yung ibang mga senators natin ay gustong singilin ang China ng billions of dollars para dito sa accumulation ng mga negative effects yung
Right.
ginagawa nila na na pang-pressure, aggression, threats sa ating mga frontliners sa West Philippine Sea. So, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Pero it was interesting dahil gusto kong malaman, gusto kong tanungin si Senator Francis Tolentino. No? Ano yung batayan niya? Bakit niya sinabi
Yeah.
na China was involved in this ramming? Meron ba siyang alam na hindi natin alam? No? Dahil yun yung una lumabas eh.
Well,
Lumabas
just to be
agad
clear,
siya na-
this is the former Ronald Llamas of Digong, right? He was the political affairs secretary of Digong.
Yes,
Just to
yes.
be clear, right?
Oo.
This is your
At hindi lang
successor.
yun, siya yung head ng Maritime Committee ng Senate, no? Yung bagong tayo na Maritime
Yeah.
Committee on the West Philippine Sea or something, no? So hindi, it would just be a sidebar na it would be interesting na tanungin siya, paano hindi na siya nagsalita later. Anong nangyari? Paano ngayon lumalabas na ito ay isang oil tanker na registered sa Marshall Islands na papunta ng Korea, I think tomorrow, no?
Yeah.
Magdadak. So lumalabas na yung mga information na wala kanina, no? Na wala kanina.
So in
So,
short, hindi ito
yun,
Chinese militia or vessel, right? So just to be clear, we're not here trying to directly blame China because unfair naman, wala naman talagang ginawang China in this case. But may fear kasi nangyari nung sa Reed Bank. Kasi remember, Ronald, nung nangyari last time was si Secretary Lorenzana, binuking niya yung insidente. He came up with a strong statement condemning yung suspected Chinese militia na bumangga sa Gemver. And then next thing you know, paiba-iba na yung sinasabi ng mga tao doon sa Duterte administration. And the next thing you know, si Digong predictably said what the Chinese wanted him to say, right? Yung normal maritime incident or accident, that's exactly what the Chinese embassy and foreign minister were saying. So anyway, mahabang usapan yan. So now you have a situation by the Ronald Llamas of Digong himself right now seems to be sometimes ahead of the curve. Maybe too much ahead of the curve. So just to be clear, I and Ronald, among other responsible people, I think we kudos to the Marcos administration for not making sensationalist nonsense out of this. But at the same time, as I said, hindi rin dapat natin makalimutan yung structural culpability of China of forcing our fishermen to venture into dangerous waters. Kaya it increases the probability of this kind of incidents. Kaya I don't know. So, realistically, what do you think Marcos can do? Kasi my sense is, and I wrote this in a piece kahapon on Asia Times, which I think nagtatop ng charts yan ngayon. It's doing very
Nabasa ko.
well. Yeah, it's doing lumabas siya ng 9 p.m. lang kahapon. Next thing ngayon, nagtatop na siya. So, I was very surprised because the timing was not that good. But, so obviously, people are paying attention to this issue around the world. And actually, so Asia Times is a very China, Hong Kong oriented publication. So I'm surprised that people are interested because the title is Philippines Takes the Fight to China, no? And what's happening with Marcos Jr. is that simultaneously, we're building defense cooperation, naval exercises, sama-sama, nangyari ngayon hanggang middle of this month. But seriously, mukhang tinitignan din natin ngayon ang additional arbitration case. Secretary Llamas, as someone who was there in the Aquino administration when the arbitration proceedings started in 2013 and eventually was very successful. Are you happy or are you optimistic that we might see a 2.0 version of the arbitration building on your administration's legacy, the administration of Aquino, no? So hindi na ito 80% Aquino, 20% Digong, mukhang mag 200% Aquino na ito eh. Negative Digong na the rate things are going. What do you feel about this?
Well, we are confronting the biggest navy in the world.
Yeah.
We are confronting the biggest armed forces in the world. So,
Careful talaga
ang ating strength ay international law. Ang ating strength ay the power of a victim, no? Ang ating strength ay it's more political. Sabi mo nga, bring the fight to China, no? Dahil medyo hindi tayo pwedeng defensive lang eh. At ang ating instruments are not military, are not even diplomacy has limits eh. Maganda
Of course.
patuloy tayo sa diplomacy pero against China malinaw yung limits niya. No?
Oh, kung
So,
wala
it
kang
has to be
bargaining chip, kung
political,
wala kang
no?
leverage. Kung wala kang bargaining chip, like Digong, di ba? He gave it all to China. I love you, you protect me, whatever.
Walang
Wala siyang
nangyari.
nakuha.
No?
Na Duterte si Duterte.
Kaya itong ating itong mga pinag-aaralan ng Solicitor General, no? Alam ko kasama diyan si former Justice Hardalesa.
Yeah,
Alam ko
yeah.
kasama diyan si Justice Hardalesa dahil
Correct.
dati rin siyang Solicitor General. So pinag-aaralan nila 'yan, no?
Yeah.
Yung Senate ay meron ding proposal na nagkaroon ng consensus na i-elevate sa United Nations. So itong mga efforts na ito ay very significant at ito yung weapons of the week.
Yeah.
No? Ito yung weapons of the week. Nag-i-invoke tayo nung kinakatakutan ng mga powerful countries like China. Dito sila takot eh.
Yeah.
Ano, in a way, pwede itong maging political judo. Diba? Pwede itong maging political judo. Let us not hit them where they are strong. Let us hit them where they are weak. At this point, they are weak in international law. No? They are weak on the moral basis for their power. No? Doon natin pinupuruhan. Na balitaan ko nga nung isang araw nagkaroon ng press con sila Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Yeah.
No? At saka mga fisher folks from Zambales, Palawan, Mindoro. At yung isa nilang pinopropose o pinaplano ay gumawa ng yata ng isang convoy, no? Tawag nila Christmas convoy going into Ayungin.
Yeah.
Partly para ipakita na hindi nag-iisa yung BRP Sierra Madre at para ipaalam sa mga tao na it should be a rallying point. At saka partly para i-assert yung kanilang freedom, no? Para pumunta dito sa contested Ayungin shore na sinasabi ng China ay kanila, no?
Yeah.
At part ng kanilang EEC. So it's parang looking from a distance, parang kwento parang political judo yung pinag-uusapan natin ngayon, no? Yung
Jiu-jitsu.
pag hinarang ng China, ang pangit na itsura nila.
Yeah.
No? Small fishermen na nakabihis yung mga bangka ng mga parol, ng
Right.
Christmas tree, ng Belen, no? May dalang regalo sa BRP Sierra Madre, haharangin, no? Ang pangit ng itsura ng China, and it will further galvanize the Filipino people para hindi lang para maunawaan yung ating kalagayan sa West Philippine Sea, yung kalagayan ng ating mga frontliners, it will galvanize them to support our frontliners, no?
Yeah.
At kung payagan naman nila na makalusot, makapunta sa BRP Sierra Madre, no? At ay magmumukha rin silang parang pinapayagan nila. So it will be dami pido, dami pido.
Yun
No?
nga
Magse-celebrate
Correct.
malamang itong convoy na ito ng early Christmas together with the Coast Guard and the troops in BRP Sierra Madre, no? Dahil may dala silang mga regalo, may dala silang mga pagkain,
Correct.
may dala silang mga fireworks, no? May dala silang the spirit of Christmas. So kung makakalusot sila, no, ay mapapahira rin ng China. So ganyan yung essence ng article na sinulat mo.
Yeah.
Bringing the fight to them, not in a military way, and not simply in a diplomatic way, but in a political way. No? At the very least, it will galvanize the Filipino people. At the very least.
Ito yung, of course, unique thing about our talking shows. Na, like, we read each other's works, you read my article before we come here. So, this is really a brainstorming session. No? Kung free war room communication strategy game to. I mean, of course, you and I, Ronald, you and I, we believe in moral high ground. We believe in justice. We believe in rule of law. But you and I are not naive because we also understand that legal warfare can work in our difficult world. Because China needs respect and trust if it wants to be the regional leader. You cannot be a leader if people do not trust you. And you cannot be leader kung hanggang ganyan ka lang, di ba? Brawn alone cannot make you a leader. If you don't believe me, watch Godfather mafia movies. Usually the mafia boss is not the biggest guy, it's some old guy there in a corner, right? Or at best, some Don Corleone looking guy. Not necessarily your pinaka-macho guy because it's about trust, confidence, fear, all of those things going together. And if kung fear lang, then you're just another goon, right? Well, guess what? America's even bigger brawn than China. Then dun na tayo sa US, diba? So China cannot win this game if tingin sa kanya is bully. The way the Philippines has made it easier for India, for Malaysia, for other countries. The other thing we have to keep in mind, of course, here is that since the arbitration award came out, thanks to your administration, the Aquino administration, Secretary Llamas, United States can invoke that arbitration award to justify its freedom of navigation operation. Essentially, sending big ships and saying in your face to China, fake yan, fake yung mga island na yan, wala yan bearing sa international law, and we're just gonna pierce through it. Oh, malaki ka, mas malaki kami, di ba? So, we gave legal justification. In fact, not only US, you have Australians, you have Europeans, Japanese, even Indians, not doing it America level in your face, but passing through the area. Freedom operations, right? Access operations ang tawag dyan. So there is a value. And more than that, thanks to Aquino administration, the Vietnamese, even Taiwanese, the Malaysians, even Indonesians now na walang kinalaman directly sa South China Sea, ini-invoke yung arbitration award natin to push back against China's expansive, illegal, questionable claims all the way to Natuna Sea ng Indonesia. Yung kanilang supposedly traditional fishing rights, yung mga ganyan ek-ek ng pinagsasabi nila. So thanks to us, right? Thanks to that arbitration award, we have that first level of bargaining chip. Now the question is how you build on that, and my sense is Justice Carvey perhaps is also being solicited for advice, hindi lang si Ardeleza. His idea was, nanalo na nga tayo sa arbitration kung saan sinabi na China did huge damage to our environment at binuli yung ating fishermen. Illegal po yan because Scarborough Shoal is a common fishing ground at the very least. Of course, they couldn't say to whom it belongs. That's not their mandate. But clearly, China cannot stop us from going there. And then, ang dami lang winasak na coral reefs dahil sa reclamation nila. So the idea of Justice Carpy is that, why not get that, take it to the court, and ask for reparation and damages. Tapos idagdag mo pa yung sinasabi nila Solicitor General Guevara na mga latest na nangyari sa Iroquois Reef, yung mga latest na nangyari ang pagbubuli sa atin, laser pointing, etc. Then if hindi pumayag ang China, confiscate mo yung kanilang state assets around in Canada, in US, etc. So actually marami pa tayong option dito eh. Unfortunately, we had someone like Digong na pang barangay geopolitics lang yung understanding niya, and he thought if you're gonna be actually the funny thing is the naive one is Digong, not us, because we were all about bargaining chip. He didn't understand the basics of geopolitics. You need a bargaining chip with China, otherwise you're not gonna get nothing. And that's exactly what happened. No real big ticket investments. Things got worse in the West Philippines and Reed Bank. So that's the funny thing. For 6 years, you and I, Ronald, a lot of us were being bashed as being naive, mga tutang ni ganito, tutang. In the end, not only were we proven right, super proven right tayo and vindicated tayo, but the question is, of course, what to do next. And this is where, Ronald, I'm gonna come in siguro with the last part of this episode. For me kasi, ang laki din ng problema ni BBM dito. On one hand, he has certain leverage points. But on the other hand, he's facing a very complex matrix of negotiations, di ba? Kasi kung kausap mo yung China, hindi lang naman yung sa Scarborough Shoal lang tinitignan eh. Hindi lang naman tinitignan yung sa Reed Bank kasi gusto nila joint development. Hindi lang nila tinitignan yung sa Second Thomas Shoal, tinitignan din nila yung EDCA, tinitignan nila yung malapit sa Taiwan. So my sense is there is a multi-level game that the Chinese are trying to play with the Philippines na bubulin tayo dito to get concessions there. And if you're BBM, kukuha ka ng help here to get leverage here. So it's a very complicated chess game, no? 3-level, 3-dimensional chess game. Whereby
sabi mo nga,
mahirap, di ba? Mahirap to eh.
3 significant flashpoints.
Yeah.
3 important
Exactly.
time bombs, which
yeah.
may explode anytime.
Anytime,
Yung isa, yung Reed Bank. Diyan kasi nagkikis-kisan tayo sa exploration, no? Ang dami kasi, ang yaman nung natural gas, nung oil na allegedly nandyan, no? So kailangan yan ng China, kailangan din natin. So who will give, no? Sino ang mauuna at sino ang mag-i-impose ng kanilang will diyan sa area na yan? Ikalawa ay yung ayungin. Dahil sineset ng China yung template para tanggalin yung thorn on their side. That rusty thorn on their side. No? Talagang gusto nila tanggalin yan. By invoking a Philippine president na nag-agree daw na tanggalin yan. At ikalawa, by saying na yan ang nagpupulot ng South China Sea. Yung kalawang, pinupulot. Yan ang nagwawasak ng corals. No? So they're setting the template para yan ay tanggalin. or wasakin,
Yeah.
which may invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty because it's an active vessel. No, it's an active military Philippine Navy vessel. At ikatlo, itong nangyayari ngayon na patintero sa Scarborough. No, yung naglagay sila ng harang, tapos ginupit natin. Tapos nagbigay sila ng not so bail threat. Nagpapatawa yata kayo, no?
Yeah.
Pinapatawa niyo yata ang inyong mga sarili, no? Pag inulit niyo yan, no, yari kayo. Ganun yung sinabi ng Foreign Ministry in so many words, no? So tatlo yan na hindi basta-basta, no? Hindi basta-basta yung mga ticking time bombs na yan, no? At kinakailangan ni Bongbong ng strength of will,
Right.
no? As well as foreign policy framework, no? Para i-confront yan. Naalala mo ba, Richard, nung panahon ni Digong, sabi niya ay together with Russia and China,
Us against
we
the
will
world.
participate in building a new world order.
Kaso
No?
kinalimutan niya yung North Korea. Ronald, pag ako yung North Korea, parang, besh, sino ka? Diba? Parang matagal kami dito.
A new world order, no?
Nag-feeling talaga yan si Tatay Digong.
Dapat paalala kay Digong yun. Yung statement niya yun, no? Na together with Russia and China, we will build a new world order. So where is that new world order now, no?
Baksak ang Russia and China ngayon eh. Both economy nila baksak eh. Oo.
Now, side note din, nabanggit mo kasi yung legal cases na pwede natin gawin, no? Nung UNCLOS, nakausap ko yung observer from Vietnam.
Yeah.
No? Tapos sabi niya sa akin ay balak din nila mag-file ng case sa UNCLOS after natin mag-file. Nung na-meet ko sila later, no, several years later, siningil ko sila. Sabi niyo, magpa-file din kayo ng case laban sa China. Sabi nila, hindi na, nanalo na kayo eh. So gagamitin na lang namin yung pagkapanalo mo.
Saka mapaya na, overkill na masyado.
No?
Overkill na yan.
Natawa lang ako, nung nagiinuman na kami, siningil ko sila, yabang-yabang nyo, sabi nyo, kayo yung susunod sa Pilipinas, di ba? Parang sa Rumble, sa high school, tinutulak mo yung nasa harapan mo, tapos pag napaaway na, wala ka pala. Di ba? Naparumble ka ba ng high school? Ako madalas eh.
Nako, maraming nangyari sa akin. Kaya nagpakabait na ako eh. Medyo bully din ako ng bata ako eh. Binubully ako, tapos bully rin ako. Ronald, obviously this I think sets the the tone for our last episode for today. Pag-usapan naman natin yung situation kasi speaking of taking time bomb, one of them is the Reed Bank situation which is related to Malampaya. And speaking of Malampaya, biglang yung Malampaya Fund ay ginawang issue with former President Arroyo. So I think suddenly this is again going back to, let's call it Haydarian thesis. Foreign policy, geopolitics is affecting domestic political realignment. So pag-usapan natin na yan in our next episode. Maraming salamat, Secretary Llamas.
Salamat din.
Okay, eto na. Tapos pwede tayo mag-celebrate. Once again. Okay, Secretary Llamas, good vibes naman tayo dyan. Ayan, nanalo ang Gilas. Bago natin pag-usapan ng politika, ano ang feeling nyo na for the first time since 1990, ano bang ginagawa nyo noong 1990? Medyo ano pa ako, wala pa ako. Ay hindi, 1990, nag-earthquake sa Baguio noon. I was just like 2-3 years old lang noon. That was the last time the Philippines made it to the finals of Asia Games, and we have a good chance of getting another gold medal. I mean, croissant and all. I know, Secretary Llamas, before we go into politics, are you happy about it? China, back-to-back natin tinalo over the past month or so. Pambawi ba yan? Inspired ba tayo? Dahil si Marcos Jr. ating president or wala na si Digong?
Diyan na lang tayo nakakabawi eh. Diyan na lang tayo nakakabawi. Di ba? Kausap ko yung mga mangingisda doon sa National Anti-Poverty Commission last week. Kinakwento nila sa akin ay yung kanilang sitwasyon, no? Pagpupunta sila sa West Philippine Sea, no? Darating yung mas malalaking mga Chinese fishing trawlers na parang militia dahil may mga armas.
Right.
Tapos kukunin yung ating malalaking isda, no? Malalaking isda. Tapos pag napuno na yung kanilang mga trawler, no? Itatapon nila yung mga unwanted na mga isda, yung maliliit na mga galunggong, tatapon nila. Tapos pupunta na sila sa China. Ngayon, diyan pupunta yung ating maliliit na bangka para pulutin yung tapon nila. At habang namumulo tayo, pag may nakakita sa ating Chinese Coast Guard, itataboy tayo. Namumulot na nga tayo ng mga tapon ng malalaking Chinese fishing vessels.
Yeah.
Pag nakita pa tayo ng Chinese Coast Guard sa ating sariling EEC, itataboy pa tayo. So talagang sobrang nakakaawa.
Oh.
Kaya pag
Niluluto
nanalo
tayo
Gilas,
sa sarili natin
ay
mantika.
talagang malaking celebration yan,
Yeah.
Richard. Dahil dyan lang tayo nakakabawi eh. Hindi man lang tayo makabato ng konti eh. No? So definitely, after nitong session natin na pinapagod mo ko gabi-gabi, no, ay
Aba, gabi, once a week lang to.
Makakapagyosin na ako nung aking Ilocos cigar. No?
Nako, Ronald
para i-celebrate yung ating victory na para sa akin is very significant.
Correct,
It's
correct.
very significant. Parang in your face, no? Kahit namumulot lang kami ng mga tapon nyo, kahit tinataboy nyo kami habang namumulot ng tapon, no? Talo kayo twice. No?
Back to back.
Talo kayo twice.
One with bato, one without bato. The one with bato, 20 points. Without bato, 1 point.
Oo.
Okay. So I see the correlation
Yun ang
there.
victory na ito eh, no? Walang mga nag-cheer na mga nagpapanggap na pro-West Philippine Sea.
Oo, yung mga
Ganung panahon
tatay
ni
style.
Duterte ay sangayon sila dun sa New World Order na sinasabi ni Duterte with Russia and China. No?
Pero feeling ko, Ronald, dahil biglang nagsayaw yung mga tatay people, siguro nabigla yung China. Akala natin, aliado natin sila. Siguro na, na-disorient sila only in the Philippines. Yung beshi mo last admin ngayon, galit sa'yo.
Huwag nyo nang uulitin yan, ha? Huwag nyo nang uulitin yan. Kung hindi namin kayo tutulungan sa susunod na eleksyon. Tatakbo kayo as an electionist. No?
Speaking
Hindi
of...
sinabi ko sino yung tutulungan, ha?
Of course. Alam naman natin, everyone, honest ang mga trapos natin. Tsaka yung mga tuta ng mga trapos. But going back to this, Secretary Llamas, speaking of the upcoming elections, sa tingin mo ba may kinalaman itong latest case against former President Arroyo? Because if you look at it, I think the opening salvo really had to do with Arroyo again, right? When na-demote siya sa Congress ni Romualdez, and then it just set in motion a whole series of events. Parang naka-chain reaction na. Sarah comes in, then the whole tambalos-los conversation, kunting tahimik, bumalik na naman ngayon. And then ngayon, si Arroyo na naman. Of course, sasabihin ng iba na, no, this has nothing to do with it. Pero I don't know, Philippines being Philippines, I just have doubts with things being perfectly coincidental, right? I think you said something similar also before. Anong basa natin dito?
Sorry, Richard, hindi ako naniniwala masyado sa unintended consequences.
Correct.
Tingin ko itong nangyayari kay Vice President, no? Na tingin ko ay dapat mangyari, no? Dapat talagang tanggalin yung kanyang confidential fund, no? As Vice President na wala naman doon sa previous Vice President. Itong kanyang confidential fund as DepEd Secretary. At ngayon, lumakalabas na kaya pala siya mahilig sa mga confidential fund. Doon siya pala ay mayor. 460 million a year yung kanyang confidential fund, no? At 2.5 billion, no? Yung accumulation na confidential fund niya nitong nung buong term niya as mayor, no? Kaya hindi mo maiiwasan na ikumpara dun sa confidential fund ng Coast Guard, no? Na yung ginastos niya na 125 million na confidential fund in 11 days ay mas malaki pa dun sa confidential fund ng Coast Guard for 17 years, no? For 17. Kaya yun yung unang bahagi, no? Na ikaw ba maniniwala na itong mga datos na ito ay lumalabas lang on their own, na walang naglalabas, no?
Baka may naglalakad na Rappler reporter sa Davao.
Like mushroom, no? Diba? So, may naglalabas itong information na ito. May nagsaset ng narrative, no? Tapos, sumunod, yung napag-usapan natin na, tinatanggal naman yung mga appointee ni Duterte sa Malacanang, no?
Marami pa rin, no? Marami pa rin sila.
No? This is long overdue dahil, siyempre,
dami nila.
Malacanang, dapat lahat ng nandyan, pinagkakatiwalaan mo.
Correct.
No? Pinagkakatiwalaan mo. No? Pero maganda yung timing magkakasunod Lalo na, after niyang tawag nga ng isang Duterte appointee, sabi niya, ang tawag niya dyan ay massacre at okay coral.
Grabe!
Yung pagtanggal ng yan. Hindi ko na sabihin kung sino. So, after nyan, no, ay nangyari naman yung pagtanggal talaga officially ng House, ng Congress, dun sa intelligence at saka confidential fund ng Vice President at saka Secretary of Education. At realign daw
West
dun
Philippine
sa very
Sea.
popular proposal na ilagay sa Coast Guard. No?
Yeah.
Yun yung kahapon yata yan, with finality. Diba? With finality. At before that, ay sumulpot
Final na to, no?
kaso
Final na to, no? Yeah, of course.
Nasikor labang kay GMA over Malampaya.
Right.
So, ang makikita natin at the very least are dotted lines, no? Are dotted lines. Tapos yung mga dotted lines na yan ay nagsisimulang maging solid line, no? Going into the midterm election, no? Dati pa naman natin sila sabi yan Richard.
That's a very good way of putting it,
Ito ay since yung tambaluslos, ito yung magiging direction. This will be the new
may chain
opposition.
reaction may big
ito
bang.
Ito yung magbubungguan, wasak ang unity, hindi lang mawawasak, magbubungguan sa midterm. An early 2028. At yun yung nangyayari ngayon.
Well, I mean, except, BBM has to do something about his own approval ratings to look strong, no? I mean, at the end of the day, BBM is still the president. He's the commander-in-chief. He's in control of the state institutions in many ways. While the vice president, really, limited lang yung kanyang powers and all, diba? So if you have a vice president whose numbers is also dropping, even though hindi siya Department of Agriculture Secretary and cannot be directly blamed, then that can tell you something, right? Because ang basa ko dito is Sarah has to look invincible. So that even if she's just VP, even if wala na yung mga confidential fund, even if gigipitin siya here and there, she'll still look strong enough for people to rally around her ahead of 2025, potentially against the admin, potentially against Lakas CMD and the Romualdez and all of that, right? Yun nga so the 11-point drop still puts her in a high territory of 70% plus, but still, it shows that wala siyang Teflon effect katulad ng tatay niya, do?
Alam mo naman, Richard, it's not about the absolute numbers, It's the movement of numbers.
Trend lines.
Katulad ng sinabi mo kanina, itong 11%, ito ay before pa ng full-blown na investigation.
Could be 15 actually.
Confidential
could be also 15.
Yung bakbakan tungkol dun sa Senate na nahirapan siyang sagutin, no? Itong lumalabas about Davao, no? 2.5 billion in confidential fund, no? 460 million a year. Ito ay nagsisimula lang lumabas. At yung ginawa ng Kongreso na tinanggal sa national budget.
Yeah.
So itong pala ito ay wala ka pa dyan sa survey na yan. I'm almost sure, no? Next survey, kahit pa paano tatama yan. Paano bumaba si Sarah sa ABC, di ba? Sa ABC bumaba siya. Tama rin yung sinasabi mo na hindi pa masyadong issue sa DNE, yung corruption, itong intelligence fund, no? Pero kahit papaano, tatamaan na siya. Dahil sa kanyang conduct, sa kanyang handling nung sitwasyon. Hindi lang to usapin nung issue Nung issue na hindi pa malapit sa sikmura nung DNE. Ito yung handling niya yung handling niya ay, she didn't came out smelling roses di ba dito? Dahil nga hindi maganda yung kanya. Kung ako siya, tatanggalin ko, sisisantihin ko yung aking mga advisors sisisantihin ko yung aking mga strategies. Dahil wala silang silbi. No?
Yung communication sila mahina rin.
Kailangan niyang mag-reinvent, mag-scale up, at mag-crisis management para sa next survey where I'm almost sure magpapatuloy siyang bumaba ng mas malaki dito sa ibinaba niya this survey. So, in that window of 2 to 3 months, kailangan niya magayos. No? Kailangan niya magayos. So, hindi lang si BBM ang may problema. Yung in a different note, no, from a different perspective, malaki rin yung problema ng Vice President. Maliban pa sa nawala yung kanyang campaign kitty. Hindi pala campaign kitty, yung kanyang intelligence fund, no? Sorry, my mistake.
Pagod na.
Naisip ko
Ako
lang.
na, okay na. Again.
Oh, my
Yeah,
mistake,
I mean,
no?
for me, siguro, Ronald, I'm not as optimistic as you when it comes to, I mean, assuming that's what you're really, aiming for. No, my sense is the confidential fund issue will peter out in the coming months or so unless it's seized upon as a mobilizing issue. So actually, if you're in the office of the vice president, you're hoping that actually, buti nga yung survey lumabas based on early September, not late September. And you're hoping by 3 months from now, kinalimutan na yung issue na yan, it's Christmas, good feels, etc. And kung tuloy-tuloy yung food inflation, o bahala na kayo, alam nyo na sisisihin nyo, hindi si VP kasi DepEd lang naman siya, hindi naman siya presidente or Department of Agriculture. So I'm not sure about that, but I think one thing I'm sure about is we're seeing much more vulnerability compared to the fodder. So wala yung wala yung Teflon effect ni Digong. The only time Digong had something close to a double-digit decline was the Kian de los Santos case. And then immediately after he comes, he meets the family.
That's 11%.
Exactly, 11 points. So almost exactly. But that was really a dramatic situation, literal in every sense of the word. But you saw Digong was very proactive. He goes and meets the family, tries to comfort them, plays all the populist antics, suspends even the drug operations for quite some time, di ba? So that means that the difference is si Digong and Marcos Sr. also, they were master communicators. Well, Digong not as, let's say, articulate as Marcos Sr., but in their own ways, they were good communicators and they were proactive communicators. They could be their own communicators. Well, we don't see that with their kids, no? I think their kids are still not there yet, and both of them have proven quite vulnerable to reversal so early in their administration. I think that's where we see the difference between the seniors and the juniors, the father and the daughter, right?
Exactly. Yun ang sinasabi ko, Richard. It's less about the issue of the confidential fund. It's about the conduct. No, the conduct and the vulnerability of the vice president.
Yeah.
Ang makikita ng kanyang mga kalaban, hindi siya Teflon like the father. No? Hindi siya communicator like the father.
Yes.
No? Digong, kahit nagmumura yan, kahit nagmamumble yan, can hold his own
Yeah.
Well, andun yung charisma, no? Nandun yung authenticity,
Instinct.
no? Nandun yung
Yeah.
organic intellect, no?
Yeah.
Nandun yung combination ng ruthlessness, no? Parang isang kontrabida, isang psychopath sa isang serial killer na pelikula, no? Na may
Machiavelli.
attraction, no? May attraction as an anti-hero, no? Yun yung nakita ng mga iba, walang ganun si Sarah.
Yeah.
So, ang inisip
Exactly.
nila,
That's the big difference.
she can be damaged, no?
Yeah.
She can be so yung mga canons ay itatapat na sa kanya. No, itatapat na sa kanya ngayon, no? At hindi na nila ipoprove yung kanyang vulnerabilities. Titirahin na yung kanyang mga vulnerabilities, no? Titirahin na 'yan, no? Yun yung magiging problema ni Sarah in the next few months.
Yeah.
In the next survey cycle na they will gang on him, on her. Halimbawa, bakit
Gang up,
tumapang
yeah.
yung Kongreso? Bakit tumapang yung Kongreso na gawin sa kanya ito? Dahil nakita nila hindi siya si Digong.
Yeah.
Nakita nila hindi siya magaling balitaktakan.
Yeah.
Hindi siya magaling mag-communicate, no? Hindi niya pwedeng
Dynamic, yeah.
itaob yung lamesa. No, kumaga sa amin
Good point, yeah. Good observation.
sa mga lumpen na katulad namin, no? Tinataob mo yung lamesa, no? Tataob mo yung lamesa sa mga
Correct.
kalaban mo. Ang nakita rito kay Sarah, hindi ito kasi lumpen ng tatay. Hindi ito magtataob ng lamesa,
Yeah.
no? At lalo na nung kanyang engagement kay Risa. No? Kung ano yung minamakambol niya, tapos bumanat siya paglabas niya ng Senate. Not during
Ito
the
ba yung
engagement.
nye?
No?
Ginano ba? Yung ba yun? Yung nye? Yung mga like
Ayun,
that's
ayun.
not.
Madrama yan sa senadora, no? Et cetera, et cetera. Pero hindi mo sinabi nung nandun ka. Yung tatay sasabihin yun eh.
Oo.
No?
Doon pa lang eh.
sabihin
Oo.
niya na,
Papayain ka eh.
Kaya nga ang lakas ng kanyang attraction eh. Very authentic, no?
Anti-hero.
Yung kanyang pagiging
Anti-hero
bully,
talaga, oo.
no? Yung kanyang pagiging bully, may attraction sa isang certain aspect ng population. No?
Correct.
Yung anong tawag diyan ng kanta? Maginoo na medyo bastos. In his case, no? Hindi maginoo, purong
Hindi.
bastos.
Or, di ba may mga version na bastos pero medyo maginoo. Kamay ganyan nangyari. Now, last thing. Pag-usapan natin where does this leave the real opposition, the progressive opposition? Because in fairness, I think over the past month, we saw Riza Hontiveros finally solidifying her position as the leader of the, I think she's essentially now the pink leader. If there's any pink movement out there, Riza should be the one that they should look forward to. Kudos naman to Leni Robredo by not, by absolutely being the anti-Karen, the opposite of Karen, giving space to Riza. We also see Franz Castro, people from the more progressive blocs also coming up. So, biglang maraming mga new heroes from the left, from center left, from far left, etc., from opposition. Because of the confidential fund issue among others, mukhang na-vindicate lahat naman nagsabi, wag naman kayo magpapudul dyan sa mga golden age, maharlika, mga ganun. So there's vindication, and the vindication is at the level of Tommy. It's at the level of economy slowing down. It's at the level of everything happening around us, no? And all of the kapalpakan of digong with China, we're seeing the effect of that, no? So, where does that leave the opposition, Ronald? Anong pwedeng gawin ng opposition coming into 2025? Again, we're political strategists here, right? So, if you were to advise mga potential senatorial balls, and also yung mga local government LGU level na may potential, no? Nagaling sa opposition, paano dapat sila pumapwesto? I think we discussed already what our forecast is, but if you were to advise, what would be your advice, Ronald?
Ilabas yung popcorn.
Ilabas yung popcorn. That's
Ilabas yung popcorn at
ito na,
panoorin itong telenovela, itong House of Cards, no? Itong Game of Thrones, no? At panoorin paano yung mga katulad ni R&R ay nang-iintriga at nanggagatong dun sa nangyayari, no?
May late night show na tayo.
More seriously, tingin ko yung at least yung mga nag-iisip ngayon na tumakbo from the classic opposition.
Yeah.
No? Dahil baka may new age
Real opposition. Kasi ako, Ron, I said ideological opposition versus functional opposition. Functional yung nakikiride sa ano.
Oo. So, ang tingin ko, yung mga nag-iisip tumakbo ay for now, no, pwede magbago in the next year. For now, walang inclination na magbuo ng slate. No?
Yeah.
Ang tingin nila, hindi yun value added sa kanilang individual campaign, sa kanilang individual possibility to win. No? Hindi makakatulong yung pagbubuo ng slate. No? At for now, I think tatakbo sila individually with different strategies. No? Different strategies. Kaya,
and you think that's correct?
Kung ako sa kanila, ay pagbubuo ko ng slate. Hahaluan ko ng mga siguradong matatalo, pero makikilala.
Right.
Makikilala. Katulad ni Risa, she lost twice
For 2028.
Bago siya nanalo. Diba?
For 2028.
Parang siya, parang may mga bagong mga bata na articulate, no? May mga bagong look, espiritu, no? May mga bago na Richard Haydarian, no? May mga na naka-leather jacket, no? Yan yung mga iconic na mga na mga millennials, no? So ibig sabihin, kung ako yung masusunod, na malamang hindi naman ako masusunod dahil small boys in the wilderness lang ako.
Hindi, ikaw diretso ka na sa Malacanang, if ever.
Nagagatong lang, no? So, yun, buunin ito, meron kang mga 2-3 na winnable, and all the rest is a supporting cast, no?
Yeah.
Partly para magpakilala ng mga bagong leaders ng opposition, at partly para suportahan yung 3 na winnable. Not really to win, no? Dahil masyado masikip Ang mukhang pinagtatalunan na lang dito sa Senate slate halimbawa ay 1 or at most 2 positions. Dahil yung 10 sigurado na No? Sigurado naman nanalo yan.
Sino ba yung mga yan? Like Erwin Tulfo, Manny Pacquiao?
Meron kang 7 na re-electionist. Meron kang 7 na mga dating senador na babalik. No? Tapos meron kang mga katulad nila Erwin Tulfo na halos sigurado na mananalo.
Yeah.
Hindi kasama doon sa 7. No? So, ilan na lang yung kwan. So, medyo masikip.
Masikip siya. No? Yeah, you're right.
So, magpatakbo ka ng mga okay lang na kwan. 10, no? 8. Pero yung the rest ay supporting cast. At mga disruptor na ang purpose ay banatan yung iba para mas may chance yung kandidato mo.
Good point.
No? Yun yung kanila, disruptors, no? Attackers, no? At magmamarka. Katulad ng
Next
mga
generation.
nagmarka siya in just one debate. Di ba? Nung binarahuran niya si Harry Roque at saka
Si Harry.
si
Si Harry.
si Gadon, no? Ayun.
Harry.
Imaginin mo kung sa buong kampanya, meron kang mga ganon.
Si
Dahil marami
Harry.
namang matatalino sa
Harry.
progressive movement, di ba? Marami naman, hindi lang naman si Richard Ledare na matalino, marami diyan eh. Marami diyan na mga magagaling eh.
Na hindi konyo.
No? Sabi nga ano sabi ni Juan, ni Ellen G. written in a country churchyard, ni Thomas Gray.
Yeah,
no?
exactly.
Full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark and phantom caves of
That's
ocean
it.
bare.
Wala na.
Full many a flower is born to blush unseen,
Aba.
to waste its
Aba.
darkness in the desert air.
Dahil
So,
ba si
marami
Lord
ganyan.
Byron yung sa likod ko? Yan mga kinakanta mo. Si Lord Byron na yung background.
Mga progressive leaders na hindi na didiscover, di ba? Ilagay natin sila sa forefront, no? Madiscover sila. Perhaps,
That's a good
in the
point.
next election, mas may fighting chance sila. Mas maluwag at saka nakilala na sila.
Correct.
Pero, ayun nga, hindi ako yung magpapasya niyan eh. No? Kung ako lang magpapasya, I will create a slate.
Oh, I mean, thank you so much, Ronald. I really appreciate that, especially your poetic moment. I didn't know you had that poetic side, but with those Chinese painting behind you, medyo may Confucious said. Parang gusto ko na may ending tayo ng
Hindi ako pag nanganalo tayo over China eh. By 1 point. No? So,
timing mo.
di ba very poetic yung ating
Oh,
victory?
grabe.
No?
Hindi lang po
What could be
Netflix.
poetic than our victory over China twice. Di ba? Kaya nagiging I'm waxing poetic eh. No?
Kaso Ronald, just to clarify, American born po yung star ng game ulit. So I'm sure bibigyan na naman ng kahalagaan ng yung mga forum dyan, mga bakery forum. Sabi na even sa basketball, tinatali nila yung love namin na China dahil meron kayong American born players. Ganun silang ganun. Okay, thank you so much. Sige, Liamas, eto talaga.
Maraming mga Pilipino na American born.
Kaya nga.
Maraming mga Pilipino na American born. About million.
Yeah, exactly. And we have a 5 million strong community there. Thank you so much, Secretary Llamas, for... I know this time was... Kasi usually ako madaldal ka, tumantuwa ka kung marami tayong pinag-usapan. But I know this time you're a little bit tired, under the weather. Huwag ka muna manigarilyo. Magpahinga ka muna, magkalamansi juice ka, etc. Oo. Magpahinga ka na. I'm working on your gift. Don't worry. Don't worry. At saka yung t-shirt, pag-isipan na natin.
Gagaling ako. Pag may nakita akong leather jacket na dala-dala ng Lalamove.
Talagang sisingilin talaga. Kaya dahil dyan, Ronald, kailangan natin kumayot para ma-fundraising na natin yan. Kailan man birthday na? Di ba October?
Bukas.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Bukas ang birthday mo? Wow.
Bukas. Hindi ako mahilig sa mga birthdays eh.
Nako, na-pressure ako.
Parang it's an accident na you were born on that day. So,
Hindi. Pag magandang gift sa'yo, it's a good thing. Oh, please get well. I'm so sorry. Alam ko this month.
Mas sineselebrate ko yung mga moments na meron kang kinalaman. No? Meron kang kinalaman para maging significant. Rather than the accident of birth.
Pero sisingil ka pa rin.
Hindi na ako waxing poetic. Waxing philosophical na ako.
Yeah, I know. Confucius said.
The universe, no? The cosmos.
Baka ma-Elon Musk tayo dyan. Wow! So, happy birthday. Advance happy birthday, Secretary Llamas. Mabuhay ka. Many people are happy about. I'm sure they're happy with your interviews also with Christian Esguerra, but I think many people also love this whole R&R conversational setup na meron tayo dito. Dalawang makulit na, alam mo na. I'm glad, and I feel na a lot of things we were saying last year na walang nakikinig sa atin. I think tayo medyo dark horses tayo last year kasi daming galit sa atin. Daming galit sa akin because I've been saying hard truths, no, for the opposition. But now I feel vindicated.
But we're doing something right.
But we have been right, and now suddenly yung mga sinasabi ko last year, sinasabi ng iba ngayon na feeling nila original sila. But anyway, I'm not gonna go there. Mabait naman akong tao. Thank you so much, Secretary Llamas. Please take care. And just to be clear, guys, once a week lang kami. Hindi naman, sineslice ko lang to. Kasi ayoko,
Pinapakyaw lang.
ayoko kitang
Pinapakyaw.
abusuin eh. Kasi I know you're tired. Ayoko na maisipin mo na inaabuso kita. Pero, Secretary Llamas, kasi the point is, first of all, I think conversation brings a different side to me. I mean, there's a lecturish side to me, there's a kalog side to me, but conversation, especially with kindred spirits like you, with Lele Claudia, among others, always brings a certain side of me, and I think this is what people appreciate. So, happy birthday, Secretary Llamas. Oh, yung mga pwede na kayo magpadala ng GCash dyan. Magpo-fundraising na tayo para kay Secretary Llamas. Thank you very much, Secretary Llamas.
Salamat.
Talk to you soon.
Sa ating mga patuloy na no holds barred conversation.
Oo, and
so,
pahinga ka na.
Pahinga
ka na. God bless.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Ayan, mga kameta, kamusta kayo dyan? Thank you very much again sa lahat ng mga nanood sa atin. I know medyo late kami nagsimula. It's almost 11 p.m. But, wow, good news, good timing. Nanalo pa lang Pilipinas. Ang Gilas Pilipinas kanina medyo worried ako na baka, Diyos ko, ano mangyayari sa Pilipinas? Parang natalo tayo, tambak tayo yung second quarter and going to third quarter. But thank God, ito nanalo tayo ulit. Wala kasi si Bato. Siguro kung nandun si Bato, 20 points ulit, diba? Magkakaroon si Bato. But thank you very much again sa mga kameta, and thank you for supporting us again, ha. I hope medyo obvious na sa iba dyan na, I do things differently. This is one political strategist thinker talking to a lot of political strategist thinkers, so this is not your usual me just asking questions and waiting for the guy to say stuff. I have my own ideas. I write down my ideas. I've published thousands of articles on Philippine politics and geopolitics, etc. So having Ronald Llamas, so labas ko na yung popcorn ko, having Ronald Llamas dito is a way to just warm things up, bring in different angles, and just like my conversations, no? Hindi ito interview, mga conversations natin. The idea is that we bring out the best out of each other, we bring out many angles, we spread the love, we divide the effort, and kanina kasi medyo pagod na si Ronald, so sabi ko, let me do more dal-dal than usual. So, pasensya na kung hindi na-appreciate yung style niyan, but that's how it's done, okay? That's how a proper conversation is done. So, kung kasanayan yung ibang bagay, bahala na kayo dyan. Anyway, best wishes. Thank you very much, guys. And mabuhay ang Gilas Pilipinas. Nako, mahal yata yung, yung Gilas na shirt yata. Nakita ko sa Nike, mukhang mahal. Mamaya, tingin ako sa Shopee. Baka meron version ng Shopee na mas mura na Gilas Pilipinas para suit naman natin dun sa finals. I think Jordan ba yung kalaban? Para naman historic, hopefully gold tayo dun. At syempre, ipon pa tayo dyan sa leather jacket talaga eh. Bakit kay Christian, ang hiningin mug na lang ngayon at yung t-shirt? Bakit sa akin leather jacket? Di na nga ako nagle-leather jacket eh. Ayan, mag-fundraising muna tayo dyan. At yan, maghanap tayo ng Gilas Pilipinas para sa finals. Good luck sa Philippines. Ayan na, balik na ako sa Twitter, balik na ako sa YouTube. Check ko naman yung mga highlights ng games, especially in fourth quarter. Apparently, we missed the most important part. But thank you guys for watching us, even if kalaban po natin ang game with China. Thank you so much. God bless and talk to you soon. Salamat. Thank you very much.